The New York Giants beat the Vikings by a final score of 31-24 and sent the Vikings home packing, along with their division rival Green Bay Packers. So, hey, Packers fans, I made fun of you last week, but if it makes you feel any better, you have the exact same amount of playoff wins as your division rivals. So there you go. But what I thought about as that game was progressing, and certainly everybody's talking about that last play, 4th down and 8, Kirk Cousins throws 5 yards short of the sticks, doesn't even give his team a chance to convert the first down. And certainly that narrative about Kirk Cousins not being able to win the big game is only going to persist, if not grow, after this game against the Giants. But when I was watching it, what it was a perfect representation about where these two franchises are going to be going in the immediate future. For the New York Giants, listen, I knew Brian Daboll was going to be a good hiring from day one. I said it on this show. I said it's a great hiring by the Giants. You look at what he did for Josh Allen back in Buffalo. I did not see him developing a culture this quick. But if you think about it, all the great coaches in the league, it's usually a pretty fast, change in terms of culture. You think about Doug Peterson in Jacksonville. They had won 4 games. And I'll get into Jacksonville later, but they'd won 4 games in the last 2 years combined. This year, they win 9 and win a playoff game after being down 27-0. You look all across the NFL at the great coaches. It was quick. Andy Reid in Kansas City. Mike Tomlin didn't have to change a culture in Pittsburgh, but inherited a great one and ended up getting a Super Bowl and then another Super Bowl appearance out of it. It's pretty quick. But the job that Brian Daboll has done with Daniel Jones, we all thought Daniel Jones to be not only a kind of a turnover machine, but dare I say a bust. I mean, his first 3 years in the league, pretty underwhelming. A lot of fumbles. Remember, he had a bad case of fumbleitis. Threw some bad interceptions. Was athletic. I always said Daniel Jones is underrated in his athleticism, but accuracy wasn't great. It didn't really command the presence of a locker room the way you would necessarily want a franchise quarterback to do so. This year, ladies and gentlemen, it is night and day. And when I did my playoff weaknesses last Thursday show, I did it last season. The biggest weakness for every team heading into the playoffs, the biggest reason that they will lose a playoff game. Obviously, that won't be the case for one of them because somebody's got to win the Super Bowl. But for the Giants, my weakness was they're limited at wide receiver, which I still think they are, and they're limited at quarterback. Well, yesterday, albeit it was against one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL, but Daniel Jones, ladies and gentlemen, 24 for 35, 301 yards, not to mention 78 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a passer rating of 114, and a QBR 0-100 of 81. Daniel Jones balled out. All the big throws that needed to be made, all the big runs, first downs on third down, big third down conversions for the Giants. Saquon Barkley was good yesterday. Not sure why they only gave him the ball 9 times, but when he got the ball, he made it happen. Right, he had that touchdown late that gave the Giants the lead. He had 2 in total. Like, when you look at how coaches can change the identity of a franchise so quickly, Brian Daboll is literally the poster child for that. And now the Giants will head to Philadelphia, where obviously they'll be overmatched. Philadelphia is the number 1 seed in the NFC for a reason. But I looked at the line for that game. I think is it 7 now? Okay, it's Philadelphia minus 7.5. That feels about right. This feels like due to the ability of the New York Giants to run the football, to improbably get big plays in the passing game, which they did a couple times yesterday. Would an upset shock me the way Philadelphia struggled over the last month? I mean, you think about the teams in the NFL that's had, undefeated streaks. The last undefeated team left over the last couple of years, Pittsburgh, Arizona, and they flamed out in the first round. I'm not saying it's going to be Philadelphia. Unlike those 2 teams, Philadelphia got a bye, but it's something to keep your eye on. As for the Minnesota Vikings, and this is a team that I thought I predicted their season perfectly before the year. I said they'd be a division winner easily. Check, they were. I said they'd be better in one-score games. Not only were they better, they were the best in football at 11-0. Check. Kirk Cousins would have one of the best years of his career. Check. And that they would win a playoff game. Missed that one, folks. So I have typically been a Kirk Cousins skeptic, as most of you all out there are watching or listening. But this year, I'm like, okay. He gets an offensive coach, a guy in Kevin O'Connell, who, did help the Rams win the Super Bowl last year as the offensive coordinator. Okay. You got plenty of weapons, Justin Jefferson chief among them. and a weak division, or at least what looked like a weak division initially and strengthened as the season went on. Packers got in a winning streak, and so did Detroit. Chicago's still a mess. But I'm thinking, okay, you're facing a Giants team that's beat up, that is, we assumed, not as good at quarterback as you are, and is inexperienced. And you're at home. And you beat this team 3 weeks ago. And Kirk Cousins, though I thought he played very well through the first 3.5 quarters, when they absolutely needed him, folks, he came apart. Late in the fourth quarter, you had the false start in the fourth and 1, not everybody getting set. But then 4th down and 8. Listen, I'll defend Joshua Dobbs. You guys know I love my man Space Dobbs out of Tennessee. I'll defend Josh Dobbs when he hits the check down on 4th and 13 with the Titans season on the line last week. It's his second start in the NFL. I'm not going to be brutal on the guy. I know he's been around the NFL. This is Josh Dobbs' 6th year. I'm not going to be brutal on it. Kirk Cousins, dog, you've been around the NFL for 11 years. You've started each of the past 11 seasons. You got to be better than this man. 4th down and 8. Your season's on the line. You won 13 games. You won the NFC North. You're at home. You hit TJ Hawkinson, who's in tight man-to-man coverage for a 3-yard gain. Don't even give your team a shot. And Kirk Cousins tried to explain it after the game. He said that he felt the pressure coming and felt like he had to get rid of it or he was going to get sacked. Then just throw the ball up in the air in the direction of Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen, who made some plays yesterday. Give your playmakers a shot, preferably beyond the sticks, for a first down. But in tight man-to-man coverage on 4th and 8, I don't get it. I don't understand what he's doing. I really don't. And not to mention, look, Kirk's numbers look good. They tend to look good. But when you absolutely need him to be great, he comes apart. Now, should the Vikings move on from Kirk Cousins? No. There's not. To me, Kirk is around that 11, 12 ranked quarterbacks in the NFL. He's outside the top 10, but he's still good. Half the teams in the NFL would take Kirk Cousins as their starting quarterback today, without a doubt. But the reason I've always hesitated on him being a franchise quarterback, because the way I define franchise quarterback is, can I envision this guy winning a Super Bowl with this team? I don't envision that with Kirk Cousins. And so this feels like what Minnesota's going to be. Next year, I have a hard time seeing them win 13 games. They're going to have a first-place schedule. Detroit's going to be better. We'll see what happens with Green Bay. They feel like a playoff team to me. Sure, they could get back to the playoffs. They're talented enough. And I assume they'll upgrade defensively in the draft and in free agency, which they tried to do this past offseason. But yesterday felt like what we're going to see over the next 2 years or so from these two organizations. The Giants are only going to get better. They're going to draft a wide receiver in the draft. They're going to upgrade the offensive line, preferably the interior. And they're going to build some depth. They got all the salary cap space in the world. And Brian Daboll, once again, like I said, is undeniably the coach of the year. But for Minnesota, this feels like what they are. A playoff team, very well could win the division next year, although it will be tougher with the first-place schedule. But you don't trust in the biggest of moments. I have never in my life heard of a 13-win team have a negative point differential. And the real irony of yesterday is when I was wrong about both of these two teams' playoff weaknesses. For Giants, I was like, okay, they're limited at quarterback. Can't be that limited. Daniel Jones looked pretty good. And I was wrong about Minnesota. I said they have to win close. Well, the real kick in the behind for Minnesota, they were 11-0 in one-score games. Until yesterday, they lost. So it's now 11-1, and that one certainly stings more than any of the 4 blowouts in the regular season. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.